Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome back for another episode of the Corona Spotlight 2020. I am your host, Gayle Nicholson, and so glad to see you again on this Tuesday morning. Thank you for being here, and I hope that your coronavirus quarantine is going on as stress free as possible. Today, the guest that I have lined up for us is quite an amazing guy. I ran across him in Success Strategies group, and everything that I've seen from him has really, really impressed me. And he is expanding and taking his empire very big. And I am so happy to watch him do so and learn from his um, um, expansion and efforts and talking about it. So let's check in with him now. Please help me welcome Daniel Faust, military marriage and family coach with War Hero to Superhero TV, military marriage counseling az.com, and Easy Way TV networks. Thank you so much for joining us today, Daniel. How are you doing?
Wow, I didn't know I have that big of an empire, but now that you say it, it sounds huge.
It is pretty big, actually. It is pretty big. Most people that are watching the show are, I'm imagining, not working their normal day job any longer, wondering what's going to be going on in the future and what the possibilities are. You're a guy that has embraced a number of different possibilities and making it all grow. So I'd love to pick your brain about that, how things are going for you, and for what you've been doing, especially with this War Hero to Superhero TV that's in development. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that. So let's begin, if you don't mind, with a couple of questions. When I asked you about your skills, pretty much the average stuff comes across from the people that are my guests, consulting, teaching, information technology, that type of thing. But you have a specialty that I don't often run across, sir, and that is one hand clapping. I have never had somebody list that as one of their skills before, so I'm interested to hear more about that.
So I'll give you the story and then I'll do it to give the audience a little teaser. So I was a typical high school student, but I went to a unique high school, a career and technical high school. I've always been trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, and I finally figured out in my 30s, but in my teens, I did not know. So I went to like 10 different classes in this career and technical high school, and electronics was one of them. And I finally said, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. I'm going to be an electronics teacher. Yeah. Well, you go over and you're working electronics, and if anybody's ever used a soldering iron, it looks like a little pencil, and you're really close to the board, and everything's like super zoomy in, and my hands would start cramping. And I'm like 14, 15 years old. I'm already cramping. It's over, you know? And I started like stretching out my hands, and I started realizing I'm like, wow, I can one hand clap. So I started doing this.
Oh, that's awesome!
Yep. So I started doing that, stretching out my hand, and I didn't realize like a one hand clap. So I started going over and using it as when I did speaking as a icebreaker and whatnot. I can do it with both hands simultaneously, but the thing is usually when I used to wear a wedding ring before it snapped off a couple months ago, that I used to take it off and I felt like it was like State Farm. If I took it off, my wife would pop up and be like, "What the hell?" And then the kids would freak out. So yes, I can do it. Yeah, this one's a little rusty, but
Well, we could get some flamenco dancing going here in a minute.
correct. I sometimes can do it within beat if I'm regularly practicing. I try to like go with a song like yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's how I learned it is in my teens, and then I just use it in there. I never beat the record. There's like a world record. I think it's 240 or 60 slaps in a minute. That's like 4 slaps a second. There's got to be flesh burning off someone's hand to go
Wow.
through that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I meet some rare people in the world that know how to do it, but the common person doesn't know how to one hand clap.
I gotcha. I gotcha. That is pretty amazing, actually. So let's take a step back for a second. Tell me a little bit about how you got to where you're at right now. You're one of our military people. Thank you very much for signing that check, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so, how did you get to where you're at now in what you're doing?
Yeah, well, I started active duty in 2000, so that electronics technology when I was a teenager, when I got into college, it was like I didn't get it. Like I'm one of those students that are an adult learner, but I'm not like a hey methodical. I remind me and my daughter are very similar. Like we have certain skill sets we do well, but like an actual like standard learner. So for me, I was hearing myself echo. For
Sorry.
me, I signed up for active duty in 2000. And for the first 12 years, I was just focused on that. I moved places and got married. And in that time, I almost destroyed my marriage and destroyed my family and destroyed my leadership. It's actually in my book, Leave No Marriage Behind. We're doing a big sale for that on the 15th. And in that particular time, for those first 12 years, I was just a typical 9 to 5 grinder. So in a sense, I was serving my country, but I was doing a 9 to 5 job, and that's all it was. When I transitioned to a different career field in the military, it was mental health. That's when things started getting squirrely. So I didn't get the career field very well. I almost got kicked off a deployment. Actually, I kind of did, but didn't. It's kind of a weird story. But the long story short is when I got bumped into the civilian world afterwards and then went to the reserve world, that's when I started expediting all this entrepreneurial things. I didn't realize I was doing entrepreneurial stuff already in the military, but I wasn't getting paid for it. And I realized that military veterans and first responders really needed help in their relationships because I needed that myself. I almost destroyed my marriage, and our divorce rates are typically higher than the civilian sector. But I was scared at first. So if you're thinking like, hey, Daniel just jumped in, everything was fantastic. No, I got down to $300, almost homeless, crying in my chair. And then I went through 70, I wish I was kidding this, 70 different jobs in the civilian sector until I broke my back about 2.5 years ago.
Hmm.
And someone challenged me like to get out of the military, go get a $10 to $15 job and start over again. He should be glad I wasn't able to get out of bed at the time when he challenged me. I was literally in the hospital. It was like day one. But I thank that man for that because he didn't mean it for ill will, but I know it fired me up. It's like watching one of those Japanese animes and you go from like you're about to die and then the guy fires up and turns all bright yellow. And it's like, ah. For me, it just fired me up and it put me in the right place because I was scattered everywhere. And that's a lot of times we do in a vision is that we just try things or we kind of minimize it. Now I'm more laser focused on that regard. So the opportunities for the TV show, the TED Talk, the publishing of the book was I started getting focused and started getting narrow and deep. And all I did is just take small risk and opportunities. Like we have a big virtual summit on the end of the month. It's a small calculated risk. The TV show, a small calculated risk. And that's how I made progression. It's inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard by hard. And when you think that big, huge picture and you don't dial it down, you don't do well. And I did that for a long time too. I kept going like, yeah. And it's like, how do you get a website everyone? You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a big and small scope of what I've been doing for the past basically 20 years. But it's a culmination of wanting my marriage to thrive, wanting my family to thrive, and wanting my business to thrive. And I needed to do it in that order. So,
Interesting. Interesting. Say a little bit more about that. Why did it have to go in that order? What about it doesn't work in a different order?
well, when we as typical Americans, and I think almost everybody around the world puts focus in the boardroom, we tend to forget about the bedroom and living room. And if you go through a divorce, your boardroom gets affected and your living room and your bedroom. If we get our doctorate degree in our spouse, and we get our bachelor's degree in our kids, and we get our associates, if our coworkers, that's going to go over and thrive. That carries legacy. I'll give you a perfect example. Again, I did 11 years, 7 months, and 29 days of active duty. I wasn't counting. Yes, I was. But anyway, um, 30 days after I left, my paycheck's gone, my benefits is gone, everything else is gone. They're like, thank you for serving active duty. I was fortunate to go and get into the reserve, but my active duty paycheck was gone and everything I committed was totally gone. In 30 days, people didn't even know who I was. And I taught them how to answer the phone and they didn't even know who I was. Sergeant who? And I'm like, I just trained you 30 days ago. I'm like, I understand synaptic pruning, but this is crazy. I'm like, but that's what happens. If you're not in the presence, everything goes away. So that's why I say that you need to focus on there because that's going to go over and carry. You know, you can retire and you can have 40 years in a career. You're gone 6 months, gone.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Those people are not putting emotional, transactional investments into you. So why are we going to put the most in that boardroom? We need to put the outpouring. So if my cup is my marriage and my family, it needs to overflow into my business because those are the people that are going to support me in the long run. The people at my work are not going to be like, oh, you're going through a divorce. They might agree with you because the society says so in a sense, but are they truly going to be there to support you? That might be a one or twosie person, but that legacy is not going to carry. What carries is when you're on your deathbed or anything else, or through trauma and trial, it's your bedroom and living room people that are in those two spaces that are going to be there. Now, some boardroom people might come into your living room and bedroom. Well, that'd be creepy, the bedroom. But anyway, long story short, the legacy has to be in those places. If you don't put that legacy in there, it's not going to be fruitful in the long run. The
Yeah.
average American has 9 job changes. Now I had 70. I'm not the norm, but the average American has 9 job changes. So the boardroom is going to continually change, but the bedroom and living room shouldn't.
You know, I see exactly your point, and you remind me of when I was working a day job a few years ago, and one of the younger girls came to work sick. Now we've got 70-year-old men that are also working at the same company, and
Mm-hmm.
I was a little edgier with her than I meant to be, but
Mm-hmm.
we had this conversation about the fact that she didn't have to be a hero and she didn't have to sacrifice her health for this company because if she was on her deathbed, none of them would be coming to visit her.
Yeah.
And you really have to focus on what is that foundational part of it. Like you said, the bedroom and the living room, the self,
Mm-hmm.
the home, the heart of the matter, in order for all of that to reach out into the boardroom, into the business, into the job, into the outer stuff. Am I understanding you correctly with that?
Yeah, you do. Because right now in the coronavirus specifically, you started your business because of, hey, our boardrooms got really exploded everywhere.
Yeah.
And the thing is now we have this opportunity to reboot our lives and get our bedroom and living room correct. And maybe we found out our boardroom is in the wrong place. For me, I'm in a boardroom in a sense of it's still a military position. It's not active duty, but it's similar
Hmm.
in that regard. But I do this boardroom position to serve my end goal is to serve the people thriving in their bedroom to boardroom. So this is a catalyst. And the great part is it's one of the few times in my life I have an awesome boss that's like, go get it, go charge and do that. And he understands. He's like, you're a rare breed. I said, I'm going to tell you. Well, adios, muchacho. You know? And that's what we need to do. I'm like, we live in this fear of like, creating. And I've only had 2 bosses in my life. I had one at Boeing. It's like, hey, I want you to get to your legacy. I'm like, you're a rare breed. Most people are like, you go do my work and my bidding, little man. And
Hmm.
I'm like, yes, sir, may I have another. So,
Right.
but that's the key is that we need to go over and do. We only have one life. Our life can be gone. We have the coronavirus, we have the flu, we have sickness, we have everything else. You can just go over and wake up dead. Well, you don't wake up, but you know what I
Yeah, I
mean.
know exactly what you mean. Yes, you're absolutely right. And again, I've been talking with people online about the coronavirus stuff, and it's like keep it in perspective because the fact of the matter is, you could walk. I could walk across the street from my house to go to Target, and somebody doesn't slow down while I'm trying to cross the street, and boom, I'm dead. So
Yeah.
your life is that fragile. It really is, and
Hmm.
maybe you don't suscept to the coronavirus itself.
Hmm.
But yeah, it is like your life is that fragile. You have to take care of it. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about what your vision is for Learn and Live and for the War Hero to Superhero TV network. Because I love the fact that you've started an entire channel, not just a show.
Yeah. The goal is to actually have about 100 to 125 shows by the end of 2025. So we're looking right now actively. So if you're listening to this message live or recorded, you get contact with me. We'd love to talk to you about it. If you have a military, veteran, or first responder centric show or entertainment and you want to go over and bring to them, come and connect with me. We want you to go over and thrive and help that community go over and thrive. Our overall learn and live perspective is we take military veterans and first responders and transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. The War Hero to Superhero show is just an expansion of that. And it's just one of many shows. So each week we go into a different theme. So the bedroom is week one. So this Wednesday will be the bedroom. And then we go jump into the living room in week two. And then we go into the boardroom week three. And then on week four, we interview war heroes, superheroes that have had that transformation. And then if we have a week five in those weird months of like May and July, and I don't know what the other month is, but in week five, we have a superhero sanctum of subject matter experts bringing in wisdom from there. And we do this on the TV show, but we also do this on the Facebook Lives, but we're elevating your presence.
Mm-hmm.
So we interview throughout on the Facebook for free, and then the war hero superhero, depending on how your votes go, is for fee, of course. But we elevate you up, and now you're nationwide broadcasted. Our heart and goal is to rewrite the script for military veterans and first responders, and stop going over and being lost in the place that when we get out of the force or if we get out of the service, that we can actually go over and thrive. And then we can take that element when we got this small, even though very powerful industry,
Mm-hmm.
transform and change, we can take that to the civilian sector too. Because if we're not struggling as much anymore with suicide, PTSD, financial management, relationships, now we can take and expand that and give that gift back to the civilian population. And each veterans have a heart for a mission, and so do the first responders. So now we give them a new mission so they can give back to the community. That's the heart and the goal of the network. And we're not trying to go over and compete. We're just going to go over and collaborate with those things. We don't want to replace any military veteran first responder agency. We want you to go over and grow and thrive. I've seen too many. I've even seen two agencies fighting for veteran suicide. Like, oh, I don't get along with them. It's this and this. I'm like, you're the same mission. I
Mm-hmm.
can help you with the communication piece. We just figure out your giftings and talents, and we just put you together instead of having small mission, big mission, and let's go work together and congeal these things.
Very good. Very good. I love that you're doing that out there because that is one of, and I'm sure you and our listeners know this far better than I do. But there really is a missing that you're filling for military veterans who are leaving the service or leaving the duty, right? And have no future to live into, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're giving them and helping them focus their future so that they can continue to contribute to society as per their skills, as per their talents, as per what they were created to be, other than a soldier or a marine or whatever each individual. My daughter corrects me on that all the time. I keep wanting to
Yep.
call people soldiers, and she's like, no, your son-in-law is a marine, don't mess it up. So
Yep.
if there are other specific designations I'm not aware of, I ask your forgiveness.
That's okay. Okay. But our goal is to also connect with those agencies too, because we can't do everything at Learn and Live in War Hero Superhero. Right now, it's just me and my wife, just in case, in the sense of consultants. But we would love to grow our consultancy in that regard. Is that people come in and they have their War Hero or superhero consultant and say, "Hey, this agency that you're not aware of, we can connect you with this agency." It's like, hey, if you're working with, wood, there's like Ballsits Woodworking, which is out of North Carolina. I have a good friend Kurt that goes and does that. Hey, if you're trying to get into vetpreneur type stuff, that's the Vetpreneur Tribe on Facebook, things of that nature. If you really want to grow your influence, it's a military influencer conference in San Antonio. Those types of things. Our goal and our heart is to connect you with those resources because we get lost as veterans and first responders. And when we're getting out or retiring or whatever it is, or we're in that moment, we don't know where to go. And sometimes we want you to do it beforehand, but sometimes when you're getting out and even getting those services in active duty, guard and reserve, you're so focused on getting out that you forget. And the average person is having that transition problem is usually a few years in. There's a great organization from Chris Hoffman, the Ambitious Vet, that helps you thriving as an entrepreneur. And he's huge, and he's been a big inspiration to me. So I want to give him kudos going and doing that. So if you're looking for leadership, specifically, that's the guy to connect with. And that's our goal and our heart with Learn and Live and then the TV show is to connect military veterans, first responders as resources. And if there's civilian resources, great too. 211.org. I've been almost homeless 3 times. That initial number, even though it took me forever to get to the rest of the numbers, was key to have that number. And most people don't understand that there's a nationwide number for 211 that you call and say, hey, I'm suicidal, homicidal, I'm broke, whatever it is, domestic abuse. Most people don't know.
Yeah, I just found out about it myself recently. That is very interesting. You're right. We got to get the word out about that,
Hmm.
because it's a whole lot easier than just the suicide hotline. Though they do great work over there, you know,
Hmm.
it's a whole lot easier, and it's more of an emergency situation. So, how did you get into this line of work, with specifically with the TV network?
So it first started off like I was in fear years ago. It was Perspectives and Reflection was the original business name. It sounded like a spa, and I didn't massage anybody. Um, and I was I got out of active duty in 2012, went down to Arkansas, and I'm like, I'm going to hit up churches. So I had to learn a little bit before I was living in it. And again, it wasn't until I broke my back. So I tried churches, I tried the different job fronts and whatnot. But what I saw consistently throughout my military and civilian careers, people struggle in their marriages, people struggle in their families, people struggle in their leadership. We had to get really narrow and deep and focused because I was scattered everywhere. I'd be like, if you have any type of relationship dynamic problem in these 27,000 domains, come to me. And they're like, I don't know what to do. And then I'd get a referral occasionally, and then it'd be like, doesn't work. So that's why I started focusing those three realms. And it also was, I broke my back, got recovered, and then the first responders opened up to me in the sense that I had to become a first responder impromptu. We were walking down in Scottsdale, me and my twins and my wife, kids, the other two kids were in summer camp. There was a motorcycle that got smacked by a woman at 40 miles an hour, and I had to become the first responder
Uh-huh.
because I was the only one that, like, everybody freezes and like, Danny, you need to go. And I'm like, I even froze for a few seconds, but the guy died, I guess, a day later. Blood,
Wow.
brain, everything. And then I realized, I'm like, they're on the war front every single day. We kind of get more kudos than the first responders, and they're out in this war front every single day. They are war heroes. I don't care if it's like you're pushing papers to have the person to go to Afghanistan, or you're going over and you're out in the field answering the calls, or going over and dealing with domestic disputes, or a first responder in the sense of there's 20,000 accidents a day before COVID-19, because I was insurance for a season, like again, several jobs. But there's 7.5 million accidents a year on
Mm-hmm.
average, and these men and women are stepping out into a battlefield each and every day. So for me, it was just a natural inclination of adding that into our portfolio. But those are the three areas we struggle with, is in our bedrooms, our living rooms, and our boardrooms. So
Gotcha.
it was just a natural expansion of time, and I and it started to click. It started to make sense. It started to build a battle rhythm for me, so then I can actually serve people.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Now, tell me about, was there one particular memory that really helped you through this pandemic, this time alone? How maybe shaped you in some way, or helped you like redefine or enjoy your thriving in a particular area?
Well, I've had so many bad circumstances with going almost homeless. Um, and this will be my TED talk. I went through sexual molestation. My parents went through a divorce. And then all the other military traumas that I've gone through for this pandemic, it was more like I'm so used to pivoting life and flanking that it just became a natural normalcy. But if you're a person that's never dealt with these types of things, this can be catastrophic in your life. And you have to just take it and dial back. We all have 86,400 seconds in a day. Again, I'm a numbers guy. So 1,440 minutes, 24 hours in a day. And the funny part is that the average person only uses 5.5 hours of the day of productivity. You should be taking those 2.5 hours a day to build yourself a structure when you get into these types of things. We need to be like when we take marriage vows, it doesn't matter what faith that you are. It's always the for better or for worse, and sickness and the health until death do us part. The thing is that life is that way. Those vows are that way because we have those ebbs and flows. Until you start living out the words that are permeating our society life, pandemics are going to be difficult. Death's going to be difficult. Everything's going to be difficult. We have to make that choice. Now I'm a man of faith too. That helps out a lot. But just from a military or secular mindset, is that you need to be prepared for a growth mindset. You need to be prepared. There's always a when more than an if. So how do we go over and thrive? We have to make those daily deposits. Because in my marriage, when I first got married, I didn't. I was withdrawing all the time. This cup was like empty. It was cracking. It was everything else. and I was taking them out to give to the boardroom. I was constantly giving to the boardroom, like, their cup's overflowing. What are they giving me? Nothing. I just keep pouring in. And I'm like, so for me, I've had to, now that I've learned to pour in the right cups when these things come, it's a lot easier. But also the military mindset does help out a lot because we're always practicing these things.
Mm-hmm.
And in the civilian world, if I visit 20 years ago, we kind of wait for something to happen and then we react, which is emotional. We need to learn to respond, which is intellectual, but never forget about the emotions. Dr. Robert Rome said it best. He gave me a great formula years ago. People think it's mine, but it's not. But you take emotions on the top and intellect on the bottom, you're setting the lie. So if you're just feeling things out and then the pandemic comes and you're just going like, let's see what happens. I'm going to buy bread. I'm going to buy milk. I'm going to buy, that's a lie because bread, milk, and batteries usually don't last. We buy that during snowstorms back in Rhode Island. But if we tend to go intellectual first because God gave us a mind, and then we use our emotions as a barometer, we set ourselves free. And we set ourselves free indeed. So, because pandemics are going to come, things are going to come. We look at history. We're repeating kind of the same thing we did in the 1920s. We took Spanish flu and depression, put them together. It's called pandemic. Yay! So we need to learn from our experience intellectually. We need to emotionally check ourselves in there, and then we set ourselves free. And I think that's going to help people in the pandemic is that we have to take that time. We all get it. Instead of going over and binging on this, because this is information and everything else, let's go binge on transformation.
Ooh, I like that. I like
That
that.
was on the fly, so you can quote it. I mean, if you
Yep,
want.
yep. That one's going on a T-shirt. Somebody else was talking to me about their podcast, and just about every time they do a podcast, they've got one quote from one of their guests that it's just like that's going on a T-shirt, and then he's got this store of all of these quotes that his guests have given him over the years. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's an
I build
idea
my
I'll
own
get
in
to
here.
now.
So
There you go. There you go. All right, now tell us a little bit about this Easy Way TV network. They've got this huge virtual summit coming up. Our ticker is inviting everyone to go and register with the War Hero to Superhero referral. Like telling Daniel sent you, War Hero to Superhero, on the RSVP. So,
awesome.
what is that all about? How is your involvement in it, and how can other people also get in on this?
Yeah, so the virtual summit is roughly about 50 people of people as lowly as me, as high as celebrities and whatnot. I don't consider myself a celebrity, but I got graciously invited to this opportunity to, grow our brand, learn and live and War Hero to Superhero. And it's different people either in speaking, branding, and transformation, how to take their lives from the nomadic, physical brick and mortar domain to a virtual growing domain. So different people are going to come and give their wisdom in 15 to 30-minute chunks for 2 days, May 29th and May 30th, and everybody can come for free. It's as simple as that. So you just go to easywayliveevents.com, and you can, when you hit the referral code, put War Hero to Superhero, and if that's like too much for your brain, put in Daniel Faust or like the crazy vet, whatever you need to put in that goes over and triggers, that they know it's me, just because it goes over and helps us out. And that also helps for our contest. If we have 1,000 people sign up for this free 2-day webinar, and my understanding is that you sign up, you get exclusive access to the content, and then you can ask questions of all the speakers and everything else. And then if you just go on the Facebook thing when it broadcasts live for the 2 days, you're more like listening in afterwards on a replay. But you get access to us and all the different benefits and gifts. And for us specifically, if you RSVP on the website, if we get 1,000 people under War Hero, Superhero, Daniel Faust, crazy vet guy, whatever you do, as long as I'm the only vet on there. So put something with veteran. That's all I'm asking. So, but if you put that in there and they know, once I see 1,000 people, we'll do a $250 cash Visa gift card directly mailed to you. Or if you want it, Facebook Pay, Venmo, Cash App, whatever you do. It's under my own personal. So I'm not even taking it out of business funds. It's my own personal cash just to say a thank you for guys for coming and supporting me. And the cool thing is you can jump in and jump out. And I think the RSVPs get the free recording, but more details are on the website, the Easy Way Live Events. And you can go there and look at the wall and see where people are going to be in there. And I guess it's Sharon Lechter and all these type of famous people. And I'm like, it's really an honor to be there. I'm just never been I'm not a celebrity, so I don't think in that mindset, but very much thankful for the influence that Eric Zuli and Denise, which is the CEO, the CEO of the companies and whatnot that have helped grow this brand, because the world is going digital. So why not go over and learn to brand yourself in a digital world?
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Now, do you have any final thoughts before we close up today?
Yeah, I would just go over and say that if you're a military veteran and first responder that's struggling in your marriage, struggling in your family, or struggling in your leadership, don't go over and wait. I would love to connect you with resources. We do a 20-minute free call in that particular regard to any military veteran or first responder. You can either go over and direct message me, you know. So if you go to Learn and Live on Facebook, or you go look for Daniel Faust on Facebook, or if you go to Instagram, Leave No Marriage Behind, or if you go on my Twitter or wherever it is, that, you know, this is the best time because we're in pandemic. So I have time for you, you know, because once life gets spinning, people will start calling, and then you're going to be like, oh, I had to wait. And I'm like, you got exclusive access, because I'm eventually going to have to grow the brand, and it's going to be more than myself. And that's the goal. But the thing is, if you want direct access to go over and help in wisdom, I'm here to go over and serve you. And I usually get more than 20 minutes. 20 minutes is like the ballpark, but I'm going to try to wow you because I want to really help you thrive. That's the main reason why. If you're not thriving in the phone call, then, hey, I'm just going to connect you with the best resources going to get you to thrive. That's the heart of it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Daniel. I really appreciate who you are and what you're doing in the world, your contribution to veterans surviving and thriving after they've given what they've given to this country. They deserve only the best. Thank you again.
Well, thank you. You're welcome.
Have a great week, everyone. Talk to y'all soon. When you actual energy work makes that recovery progress so much faster. That recovery is possible. You do not have to live as a victim until your last days. You have unbelievable strength, and I know that because you're still here. Do you want to create something completely unrecognizable with your life? I can show you how.